Hi everyone, welcome to the East Coast. My name is Kalina. Today we have Vic Singer, a practitioner of love and change. Hi Vic, how are you today?
I'm doing very good. Thank you.
Thank you so much for coming on. So today we want to talk a little bit about your work. So how did you get started? You are a priestess. How did you get started on that journey?
Um, Actually, that started as a really young person. When I was a kid, I didn't know I was getting started on the journey, but when I was a kid, we very much were in the mystical realms. Often, when we got to play, when we weren't in school, we would get out of the house as quick as we could and go out into the woods or to the creek and commune with the spirits there and make up our own games and make up our own special powers and really explore nature. And that was sort of my in. Was really I'm super grateful to where I was actually able to be raised. I had land to play with. A lot of kids these days don't have any land to play with. I had trees and lots of, we had like 5 acres. It wasn't like a whole lot of land, but it was treed, and it had a creek, and it had a field, and it had Indian burial grounds, and so it was a very active place for little kids to be involved in, for sure. And the mysteries of nature to be awakened in us. So that sort of was my in. Like I said, it snuck up on me. I didn't know that's what was happening. As I grew and grew up in the society I was growing up in, I definitely, by the age of 16, wasn't seeing myself living longer than the age of 21, and I did contemplate suicide at a young age, for sure, because it was really traumatic life to try to navigate being a person that I was, just seeing so much hatred and so much pain and so much suffering and so much no way out kind of thing. Of course, I wasn't even able to drive at that time when I was contemplating killing myself. But anyway, actually, that particular day that I got the guts up to do the deed, I believe I was like 13. I was either 12 or 13 or 14, somewhere in there. I acted sick that morning, so I didn't have to go to church and stayed home. Everybody else went to church. I went into my mom and dad's bedroom, pulled open the top drawer of my dad's dresser, pulled out his handgun, walked over to the mirror in my mom and dad's bedroom, looked in the mirror so that I could line up the gun to my head, and going to do the deal. As I'm standing there looking in the mirror at the gun, getting it situated, then I'm looking at my eyes, and then I'm looking at my eyes, and then I notice my eyes are looking back at me, and my eyes are looking back at me, and in that moment, something inside of me cracked, and I could not do what I thought I was going to do. And instead, I just got furiously pissed off and went outside and just shot the gun once and went back in and threw it in its drawer. And after that, I proceeded to try to slowly kill myself with drugs and alcohol. Again, not knowing that's what I was doing, but I got very much into alcohol and then into different drugs and things like that. And by the age of 19, I had already run away by home. I was heavily into cocaine, definitely wanting to kill myself by then. Before the age of 21, a boyfriend of mine said to me at one point, we were shooting pool, and I had coke, dripping out of my nose. It was so messed up, man. Just so like, this place does not make any sense. Get me the hell out of here. And he looked at me, he says, Vic, you could get help. You could get help. And I have to tell you, I was 20 years old. It was the first time that ever really landed in my heart anywhere, that there was a possibility of something else happening in my life. And it was at that point that it took some months later, because before the age of 21, I had asked for help and checked myself into a treatment center to get off of this train that I was on. And so obviously I successfully got off of that train I was on. But what that did when I went into that place, that treatment center place, and started going through all this other craziness that was in there, when I got out and started working my own world again, I dove into as much spirituality as I could that didn't have anything to do with religion. I dove back into what I used to believe in when I was a kid. I dove back into like what really feels right to me in the deepest way that nobody else can tell me, because I feel it's right to me, because it gives me shivers when I read it in this book. It reminds me about something about myself that I didn't know before. So I just, for like years, man, just like flooded myself with alternative information. And as I did that, was really amazing, because I would go into this bookstore. It's in Nashville. There's this huge bookstore called Davis Kidd. And back in the day, it was really a cool shop. It was the only coffee shop in town, so that, you know what I mean. They had it all, so they were the hop op. And so I would go there, and I would walk into the spiritual part of it, the aisle where those particular books were, and I would ask, okay, what am I finding now? Because I wouldn't go all the time. I would just go when it was time to go again and find some new material. Mm-hmm. And as I'm walking down that aisle, I swear to God, a book will fall off the shelf. And that's how I would know. And it didn't matter if it was one book that fell off, two books fell off. At one point, a whole volume of books fell off. The volume was called Life and Masters from the Teachings in the Far East. And it was a volume of 6, and it was really high up on the shelf. And so when it landed, it made a hella big noise. And I was a little bit embarrassed, but I quickly gathered it up and brought it to the counter and paid for it and took it out. So like the information that was feeding to me, because I went in with an intention. I went in with my heart open. I went in with the pureness of my most innocent self, just wanting something real. And so they started to work with me as soon as I opened up to it like that and really start studying with them. And so them being the whoever our guidance system is, right? Mm-hmm. And so however that works, the mystical, energetic force that we all live in, they, the books would move off the shelf on their own, I swear to you. And but I'm sort of dense sometimes, and my trust is really sometimes the hardest thing to break. And so I ask for some really good, clear signs, because I don't want to be second guessing myself and everything, because that's so easy for me to do, and doubting my intuition, because that's how I was raised, so all these things are very sort of slippery for a while there in my early 20s, Mm-hmm. So they really helped me in that way of just really making it obvious, and as I'm diving into these different books, from the Elohim Rays of Light to Celtic shamanism, to indigenous folk, to stories of plant medicine people. And I'm reading like this enormous volume of different information of spiritual practices, Thich Nhat Hanh's information, Pia Chodron, just all these Pima Chodron. Everybody that's speaking to me is speaking truth, and I know it's truth because it's making my body vibrate. Mm-hmm. It gives me chills up and down. So I'm like, whoa, this is hitting me so big. And then, like I said, sometimes I would have memories to come. And things, I just started being able to trust when things actually feel right, how to trust that rightness. Because in the beginning, when we're changing who we thought we were before, we might be in an uncomfortable situation that for us it's unfamiliar, so it's uncomfortable, and so we think it's wrong or bad. In actuality, it's uncomfortable just because we haven't been there before. It's not actually wrong or bad. It's very right, and if we can relax and hang in there a minute, it will show itself to us. More will be revealed, right?
Right.
And so that was sort of my path. So my path kind of started from a hope of from a place to wanting to die, basically, and get the hell out of Dodge, mm-hmm. really, and to then see a different aspect to life that wanted me to see it.
I just want to thank you, Vic, for having the courage to share that with our listeners, because I think what you just said there is very powerful, and to have the courage to go seek to find more in this world. than what you were given, I think that's really, really brave and really wonderful what you did. And I also do appreciate how you're speaking about other paths, like you're looking into, like you're exploring different spiritual paths to help yourself. I think that's really important for listeners. One question I wanted to ask you, because you said this a wee bit ago, you were talking about how you wanted to stay away from religion and you wanted to go more into spirituality. Can you kind of explain your definition of those two? Because I know there's a lot that some souls will put them together, and there's other souls that will separate them. I just kind of want to see your 2 cents on that.
Okay. Well, I definitely separate them because in my reality in this America, they are very separated. Spirituality is a living force that has its own life. Religion is a box that asks for your life to come to it and give it reason to be there. Spirituality doesn't need me to come to it for it to have a reason to be there. It's already there. Earth and everything of Earth and everything of this galaxy is already there, whether I'm here or not. But religion requires me to bring its specialness to it. Okay, if I don't believe in it, then it doesn't exist. Spirituality will exist regardless of whether I believe in it or not. That's one way of explaining a separate.
No, I think I like the way you explained that. And the other part too I wanted to touch on is you work a lot with ancient ancestors. Can you explain to listeners how that came to you and how can they connect with their ancient ancestors?
That's a really good question. Let's see. Okay, I'm going to start backwards with your second question. Because everybody, the ancestors are here. So the only reason why they don't seem to be here anymore is because we don't allow their presence more into our lives. We don't sing their praises. We don't ask for their help. So since we live in a free will society and world, Earth, humanity, then nothing can be forced upon us unless we somehow, energetically or with our own tone, voice, song, whatever, ask for it to come to us. So when I was doing all that exploration, I was reading about the goddesses of all different, just all over, in the different belief systems and psychologies and stuff even, but in the different religions too, the older ones would have these goddesses. And so I would start exploring them. And what I will notice is if I ask them, what do you have for me today? What can I learn from you today? They will teach me something about myself. I can start recognizing them in my own life, where I hold that archetype in my action. But until I could ask them to show me what do y'all have for me today, that they would show up. And it could be in any kind of scenario that it would show up in somebody's word, in somebody's actions, in somebody else's thought. It could be somebody in a car. It could be some animal over there. Any kind of a gazillion different ways that they can show up if we are open to seeing it. The thing that sometimes happens with us is we'll ask and we won't believe it's already been answered. So we'll keep asking for the damn thing. And as we're asking for the damn thing, it's pushing away the answer every time, even though the answer is sitting there already. As soon as we ask for it, it's given, right? Mm-hmm. And so like, boom, boom, just like that. But we're not used to that. We're not trained to believe in that. I wasn't anyway. And so, it takes a little bit to just ask, release, breathe out, and then watch for it to come. So almost expect it, And again, there's like coyote in this whole box too. And coyote's a whole nother energy that'll come in and try to flip things around, because guess what, kids? We are learning how to be real. And first we have to undo ourselves, because all this stuff that we've kind of been doing is not been that much about realness. It's been about all these other things that aren't really real or have any kind of sustainable life force about them. And so they just act like they're nourishing, but in essence they are not. So, so we're doing all this undoing thing, and this is a lot of the training that I'll do, is help people to navigate this particular pathway, because it's more than just what we're thinking about. It's what we feel when we're thinking about that. It's more than what we see with our eyes, but what does it feel like in our heart when we're looking at that? So that can get me off track a little bit if I go too far down that road. But to stimulate, if you're wanting to invite this energy that's out there waiting for us to come in, all we have to do is invite it. Energetically, with our full heart, invite it. The desire has to be real. If it's just like, well, I don't really believe it, but I'm going to say, yeah, y'all come on. Well, they still may come on even if you're giving them a little bit of hell about not believing in them. That's okay. They might do some funny things, just to be funny and to help you lighten up a little bit. You know what I mean? Like, that's kind of like coyote energy, It's kind of like, well, we're just going to kind of trick you because that's the only way to get to your heart is to trick you into it, So we're going to trick you into it because we know what your deepest desire is, even if you don't know what it is yet. We're going to try to help steer you toward it, as we awaken together, So really, set aside a place in your home that's designated to that ancestor that you want to invite into your life. That's all you have to do. Make a little physical spot, and then, make your intention very clear. You can set up however many boundaries you want to, but make your intention clear. Put the physical space in your home somewhere. It doesn't have to be a big space. Some little spot that's a showing of effort, and it's also in the physical body, makes the thought stronger. Okay, so we're adding our actions not only with our thoughts, but we're acting into our thoughts. So this increases our momentum, and it gives the spirits on the other side even more energy to work with to come to us. Okay, so if we're only this much open, if we're only a bottle cap opener open, then that's only as much as they can come. But if we open up the size of a 5-gallon bucket, then they'll fill that up. You see what I mean?
Mm-hmm.
So they can't give us or help us more than we're ready to receive. So that's the other thing that we can just sort of relax about and trust, because I know some people get real worried about, oh God, what if it's too much? Oh God, what if I can't handle it? Oh, da, da, da. It's like, honeys, we're already in that situation, okay? We already can't handle what's going on right now on the planet. We don't have those answers right now, and the ones that do aren't in the position to be leaders yet. You know what I mean? So, like, we're working on that. Mm-hmm. But, like, so right now, you're going to get exactly what you need, no more. Okay, no more. And nothing is going to be wasted because of that, because the spirituality, the universe does not work on waste. Okay, that's a human, I don't even want to know if I want to call that human, but that's something that we've played with here. Okay, is waste, and what waste is, and how to do this composting, this how to recycle, like God, how do we rearrange this thing after we've done what we've done now? Well, the good news is that it's rearranging now, and all we really need to do is jump on board of the rearranging, because it has a mind of its own, and it wants life, and it will have life, and so we can grow with that life force, and the ancestors will help us do that. These, as far as the ancestors, man, even you don't even have to go with the ancient ones, because even the ones that we grew up with, like our grandpas, our grandmas, our great-grandpas, their grandpas, even our mom and dad, if they're on the other side now. These are all ancestors, our aunts and uncles, the people from our immediate blood family, even if we didn't like them, even if they didn't even hardly know us, because whatever. They're still in our field. They're still our ancestors. We can still call on them. you know.
What technique would you recommend to call in ancestors?
What was the question?
Oh, sorry. What technique would you recommend for the listeners to call in their ancestors, or if when you're speaking of the coyote, if they were speaking of animal spirits or guardians, like what would you recommend for them to call? What technique would you recommend?
Okay. Well, voletes. Okay, because everybody has their own way of being with their self and creating what feels like to them a safe space. So I would recommend that if you are wanting to call in your ancestors, set yourself up where you feel like you're in a safe space. Have your whatever you like to drink or eat or nibble on with you. Put your little candle. It doesn't have to be a candle. It can be a rock. It doesn't have to be a rock. It could be a picture of your ancestor. It doesn't have to be a picture. It could be an article of theirs. It doesn't have to be an article. It could, you see what I mean? You could draw something, write their name, but make some sort of altar. So that's what the thing is, making some sort of physical altar with that ancestor on that altar in some way. Okay, and sit with that. Calm your body, breathing calm, listening, get into your breath, and then start thinking about what your heart wants from this ancestor. What is wanting to be touched? What is feeling sad, or what is feeling needed, or what is the desire about? And then start really getting into that intention that you have. Now, because once we set that altar and everything, the ancestors are present. And so they're listening as we're going through what are we really wanting? Why do I want to connect with them? Like what are my questions? How will they talk to me? And so you're asking all these questions into the field, right? And when you're ready for those answers, they will come back. Sometimes I will sit. Sometimes I feel like I need a notebook when I sit, and I'll sit because I'm coming with questions that may need to be written down. And so I'll do that. I'll bring a notebook to it and be ready to write down whatever when I'm listening.
That's a good.
I don't have any radio on when I'm doing this. I don't have any distractions going on that will keep my attention anywhere else besides in this present moment with this very sacred act that I am doing that no one else on the planet can do but me. And so I'm going to sit down on that seat, and it's okay, because guess what, kids? We are all worth it. And we all have the ability. And the love is there anyway, regardless of anything that has ever happened to any of us. All right? Sometimes I had a couple of ancestors, recent ancestors, and they were very mean. They were very awful and hateful and everything like that. And so I sort of expected that on the other side too. Guess what, man? They're coming back to asking for forgiveness. You see what I mean? So we, even with those mean ones, we can let them know we know who they are and that sort of thing. We won't necessarily call on them if we don't want to, but the thing that I'm inviting is that this ability to call them in and let them know that love is there for them anyway helps transform the past, transform the future, and create more harmony on the planet. You know what I mean? Like we're in so much violence right now: domestic violence, global violence, country violence, blah blah violence. And it's just like good grief, it's every other thing happening. But
and speaking of global, I want to because we're running out of time here. It's flying by. But I want to talk about your work because you have a Global Magic Temple, a kinder garden community. Can you tell the listeners a wee bit about that?
Okay, the Global Magic Temple was created this year because I was being guided. They said, Vic, start your school. and I've been teaching most of my life, and so what they were meaning was to actually get a temple space, and because I've been living in a tent, living in the woods, and sharing spaces with different people. I've been pretty gypsy at times and moving around. So the Global Magic Temple basically ended up being a physical place, physical home, where I can do my ministry in that home, or I can go out from that home. So that the Global Magic Temple was the name that came for the particular school that they were calling out for. Global, because this is my work. This is my biggest work. So this is what I'm doing. Magic, because it's so real, and I just want everybody to have an opportunity to feel it in their lives. It's not fairy tale, you know what I mean? It's actually extremely active. And temple, one, because of the home, two, also in direct relationship to the earth being a temple, and then three, the direct relationship to my physical body, my physical being, my personhood is also a temple. And so, being able to touch every aspect, the holistic approach of being in the world at this time, in our human bodies, with our spiritual essence, with everything that we've ever come with, however many lifetimes or not, it's precious. It's precious in that being. It's precious in that body.
I know we're coming. That was probably the fastest interview I think I've ever done. It just went by so fast. How can the listeners get a hold of you if they feel connected, where they want to work with you or learn more about Global Magic Temple?
Okay. My email address is probably the easiest way.
Okay.
vmagic@gmail. So that's vmajik@gmail.com. And I'm usually have internet access now. Back in the day, I was rarely having it, but that's a really good way. And then we can go from there, because I have a phone number, or if they want to come out and do personal work where we're in the same field together, which is definitely my favorite flavor, because then we can get out there in the world together, and everything. But either way, it's all good. Over the phone, long distance. Got lots of tools to share.
And you're in Nashville?
Practices.
And are you located in Nashville? Sorry, I should have checked.
I am. Nashville, Tennessee, sure enough.
Okay, well, and also too, are you on Facebook or Twitter, just in case of our listeners?
I am on Facebook under Victoria Singer.
Okay. Oh, no, thank you so much for coming on. I think this was a very powerful show, what you shared. I think it's very good for listeners to hear, and thank you. Thank you for coming on.
Thank you, Colleen. I really appreciate you asking me. I really do. Thank you. I love this show.
Oh no, I think it was wonderful.